Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Qdabra's weekly webinar. My name is Mel Clemente. I am the lead Forms developer here in Qdabra. Joining with me today is Kaoru Akamura, our lead web developer. We're excited to present today's webinar for you. We'll be sharing tips on how you can make use of sticky headers in your forms via CSS, and then I'll be demoing our new extended filtering technique for using your dashboard forms. Okay, so today's key takeaways are for the first part, you'll learn how to handle long views in your forms. So Kaori discovered this cool technique of using sticky headers for tables and sections. These are useful if you have very long views. Like the header labels would just stick to the top of the view, and so users can scroll away without losing focus on what columns are for which. And then I'll be showing you how we have improved the way we do filtering in our dashboards by cascading the already available values in the dataset as filter options, and then showing them on hoverable drop-down menus. So more on that later. Without further ado, let me pass the baton to Kaoru, and let's get started. Kaoru?
All right. All right. Thank you very much. May I have a control?
Sure. Give me 1 second here. Okay, now you're the presenter.
Okay. All right. Show my screen. Okay. I hope. Okay. Which screen can you see?
Yeah, we can see.
You can. So you can see the demo, right?
I can see the sticky.css.
Okay. Yeah. Sticky. Oh, this one is the browser that with sticky header demo, because I have two screens.
All right, I can see the code, the CSS file.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then there's the wrong one. I wonder how can I change screen monitor view. I'm sorry, green one. Yes. I hope now you can see my demo browser.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
So let me just start from the demonstration. Once you see it is really clear, this is a typical repeating table. I used a sample of our webinar list that we are using internally, and now while scrolling, this header remains on the top. So you can see which column is which, even though this kind of really long repeating table. And also another nice example I can think of is the Q roles history. So many of you have this kind of display, a kind of the back, and this goes really long. So we can have a sticky header like this for repeating table. Or we can extend this for another type, like a section header that sticks at the top of the section while you are scrolling the section. Or the last example I am going to show you is two columns, and the left column keep the section name or some information or so on until you read to the next group. So this is demonstration, and let me explain how we can make it happen. In fact, this is really easy with just 2 lines of the CSS in main portion, and we use position sticky. This might be new to you, or you might be really familiar. In general, we use CSS position as relative or absolute, sometimes fixed static, but this new sticky one acts sometimes as non-relative and sometimes as absolute. Then let's start how to create. So I am going to open the start one. This is the one without the CSS. So because of that, this just goes away. This is normal repeating table. So I am going to show you on using this example with the background. So a little bit up. And so this is the header, and okay, maybe I am going to add on this cell with just 2 lines of the code, CSS code. And I'm going to add it here. Then let's see if, yes, if this, it's just stick like this. And this goes away. Okay, so this is the key concept. And at the same time, there's something we need to be careful. A sticky is really handy, but this doesn't work with some kind of group that has a display attribute like some group. So we need to add this to table cell instead of table header. Okay. And then the next point is, how can we apply this and where? So on this one, the key area is here. I'm afraid this is really small, but you may notice this div has my sticky section header. This is the name I added to this section. So let me check it in the InfoPass form. So I am going to open the start one, design, and this is a really simple one. But what you can see is on this section, in section property and in advance, I have my sticky section header as a screen tip. This is a trick that we explained last year, but maybe good to remember. And with this screen swap class JS, this screen tip was converted into the class so that we can easily use it in CSS. So now I am going to add resource file. So we already have this swap class JS, and I'm going to add just a few lines. So in fact, the first group is repeating header. Second one is for the second sample. The third one is for the third sample. And I'm going to add this to sticky CSS here. Then, as usual, I am going to load this resource. In fact, I just need to enable this. And the command is the one you may be familiar with. Load resource, name is this sticky CSS. And I am going to save this one, save as, and start end. Then upload to this start one. With this one, I just modified upload. Then if I refresh this one, now I hope the header is sticky right now, like this. Okay, so in most cases, we can start just 2 lines of the code, but sometimes you may need some adjustment that you may see in this CSS. So as a process, I have the sample CSS in the package and also steps on how to work on your sticky header. Sometimes you need to adjust CSS to determine which div or which area you'd like to attach the sticky. Okay, that's it, and return to your mail.
That's really great, Garo. Thank you for the wonderful demo. I'm sure that I'll be using this technique in my forms going forward for sure. Okay, let me share again. Okay, so here we are with the extended dashboard filtering. So as I have mentioned earlier, I'll be showing you how we have improved the way we do filtering in our dashboard, just like what you're seeing there in the GIF there. That's low quality. Actually, sorry about that. So yeah, we're doing it by cascading the already available values and then displaying them in hoverable drop-down menus. Okay, and we actually are already using this, or we get this experience in SharePoint lists and libraries today. We love how we're able to filter to the deepest level to look for the data we need, right? And that's present in SharePoint lists today. So we found ways to implement the same functionality, if not better, in our FormsViewer dashboards. So let's go straight to the demos here. So here I have the same set of data that Kaoru demoed. Here's the Qdabra webinar list, right? So if I'm just going to refresh here, although this data is coming from the database instead. And there are a couple of reasons why we have a lot of tons of data here, if you can see. And I've actually applied, or Kara applied her sticky header in this form, so you can see I'm not losing focus on which column I am in for each of these rows. So there's a ton of data here. I think about 1,000, and there might be some lagging if I'll be querying from a list. So I want to be able to get my data from the database, but not using a SharePoint list, I'll be limited to filtering. So we come up with this technique here. So as soon as I click a presenter there, now I can see those almost the same pop up here that lists all the data again that is already in this data set, but they're displayed only once in this sort of pop-up, drop-down pop-up menu, right? So I can pick here, and I also have some sorting going on here. I have a row for empty ones. Let's try empty actually. So we don't have empty. I wonder why that's there. Let me try again. So okay, let me pick myself here, and we'll see. There's a couple rows for me. These were I guess, my past webinars, right? So here, let's drill down further. I'm going to say published is false. So now we return just the minimal rows that I want. I was able to drill further down into only the data that I need, and I can also do sorting. So once you selected a filter value for a column, you see that the font header changes to red, and now you can see a clear filter option there, so you can basically reset your filters, right? And then let's try to sort by descending. And so that works. If I go to date and sort by ascending, so that works too. And you'll see the arrows indication where or how I'm sorting my table by. And you'll notice that some columns here are not filterable. They're only showing the ascending or the descending options. That's because each of these, let me clear out my filter here. Each of these rows have unique title, for example. I don't have any multiple instances of this row, for example. So it will be useless if I provide that as an option for a filter, right? I'd always return just the one item if I select. I would have gone Control F to find what I need or add a search functionality. Same with the date there. So I'm only providing those ascending and descending options there. So I'm going to show you one form that is I'm actually developing for one of our customers, so it looks better, right? But I changed the logo there, and these are just sample data, just so you can see whether in a real world scenario how useful this extended dashboard filtering technique is. So all of these, most of these are filterable. Here, the region, if I go year 2021, I get only those. If I go empty, I get the empty ones. Then again, I can keep clearing. And then the account numbers are unique. Again, try it on numbers are unique. So I only have ascending and descending. Oh, these are not So I guess I specified this to be filterable. And not only that, I added this expand collapse feature here. So then I have this multi-level filtering going on because this many numbers of columns won't fit into just one row. So I have a second row here showing more columns, and these the secondary row is actually filterable too. I go like that. Now I can see only the US ones. So yeah, that's actually a little crazy, but we have that working, and of course there will be more improvements to that. And how are we doing this? First, we need an XML file, the FormLogic XML file, where we declare all our columns, the columns that we want to display and query, right? So you see in the first example, the webinar list, I had the date, the title, the presenter, and modified by. All those columns you want to show, you need to specify in your XML file under the filters repeating node. Okay, and then whichever you want to be the user to be able to filter by, just say true. So can filter by equals true, just like what we had for the presenter, and all the others can filter by equals false. And the operator here is just being used for your for the for the filter that you want. How do you want to filter? You want the presenter, the selected value in the pop-up menu to be equal to the whatever you selected, or not equal, greater than, or what have you. Okay, and then the hoverable drop-down effect is done via CSS. So it will be pre-shipped with the demo files that we'll send you after this webinar, and nothing to change there actually. All you gotta touch is this form logic to change the columns that you need. And then here in our actual XSN, let's show you how the data source looks like in the fields task pane here. So here are the repeating filters. We're actually showing the header repeating group only once here, where Ikaru helped me figure this out. The magic here is this repeating section that displays all the filters. So this is the button that we click for the header, like or the title, the presenter, the modified, the date. This is the button for that, and then this is the button for the pop-up, the options, the drop-down menu. It looks like a drop-down, but those are actually buttons displayed in repeating sections. So if I go to repeating section properties and go to display, here we'll see it's repeated horizontally, as opposed to the typical what we use usually repeating vertical. This one is horizontal. So even though I have one instance of this column per se, it will display across my screen horizontally, just like this, just like these. Okay. I started I started the hard way, right? I had a repeating table here and I had this the filter section in multiple places here. Like I needed to copy and paste. I didn't know that I could use the repeating horizontal feature, but that's good to know that it works in FormsViewer, because you can also use that technique in your other forms maybe. So let me see what else here. So yeah, then we have the centralized rules, of course. So let's start with the get items, because as soon as the form opens, it queries the database to get the items. And then everything here is centralized and data driven. If I first set the column string is the eval of it's just limiting the columns that I specified in my form logic, right? If you can see that. Then I set the sort string as well. If I'm sorting, if ascending or descending is selected, right? And then I get the items, which is I'm setting query XML here with just the concatenation of all those three, the column string filter and then the sort string. So again, nothing for you to change in the logic. All you got to set up in your form is, of course, the data connection. For example, here is the one that's getting the items from the database. And I think all of you here that sent us today have DBXL, are using DBXL, so you can make use of the QueryDB with user key web service. And just set your data connection there. So if we go to the data connection, we'll see that all the columns are, I'm returning all the columns here. But even if I'm not, for example, ID, I have that in my data source, but I don't have in my form. I don't have that in my form logic. That's okay. When I query this data source, because I don't have that in my column, it will just not exist. The field won't exist in my returned data set, if that makes sense. But yeah, and then what else? So after that, also no need to change this header, the header part here. They're all already configured with the rules and the conditional formatting. All you have to change here is a repeating table that displays your actual data. So you're gonna probably have more than these number of columns. So you will add more columns here and rebind, use calculated values and bind accordingly. That's it. But of course, we're here to help you if you get stuck and because Patrick already started telling our customers about this feature, and we're already being bombarded with, I want that, change my dashboard into that and this. So we're looking forward to do this for your forms. And that's it for the demo. Let me go to my next slide here. Just a quick recap. Some quick steps here. So you're going to create your secondary XML data source. It's already there. We're going to ship it. You just have to modify it with your columns to declare your columns, and then configure the centralized rules as you see fit. If you think there needs to be some changes, some special handling in your case, right? You just need to look into the rules that are already there, and then modify the view with your specific controls. That's it. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions? Real to get your questions. And while we're waiting for that, I'm gonna pass the mic to Joanne so she can talk through FormsViewer here. Just one second. Joanne?
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm here to talk about the updates that we added in the latest Forms Designer version. So, but thanks for, by the way, thanks for the demo, Karen, Mel. That was great. So yeah, so this is what you're seeing on my screen is the latest Forms Designer. I've just loaded the expense report sample here, and it got imported in the Forms Designer. So the new things that we've added here basically are the basic things that you would do when you are designing the form. Like for example, if you like to add a field, so I just selected a group there where I would want to add my field and type in the name for my field here and click add, and that field gets added in the main data source now. And if I want to add a rule for that field, I can switch to a different data source here. Like for example, if I have Q rules in my form, I can go to Qdabra rules, click finish loading here, and I can select rules to show all of the rules under finished loading. So you can see there are a bunch of rules here already, but I want to add a new rule for my form name field that I just added there. So I'm gonna click the plus button here. And so I just added that rule, and I will name my rule something like. And just like info path, you can add a condition for your rule. You can select the condition box here, and you can enter the formula that you want for your condition. We don't have that drop down where you can select the fields and the condition that you want. But for now, the design is you can add the formula, type it by hand. So for example, if form name is equal to blank, you like to set that field. So as you can see, it's reading that correctly here. And there's also the stop checkbox here. Stop at this rule if the condition is met. If you're familiar with InfoPath, there's this option there in the rules task pane where you can stop the rule. So that checkbox is also there. And so the actions that we currently added to the Forms Designer is the set the fields value. I think for the reason that this is the most used action, so this is the first one that got added as a feature here. So I can click this button here to set the field that I want to. So switch to main here. Select the form name field that I just created and enter a value. But I can also add a formula for something like so I think there's also some validation here. Let's see. Oh. Anyway, I know that there's a validation for when you enter an invalid XPath or something. It's supposed to throw an error. But yeah, anyway, I'm just using that function there, and it's accepting it. And I can always edit my rule by clicking this link. And this ellipsis here allows you to delete that action. And I'm going to click done if I'm done editing my rule. I also have the option here to enable or disable the rule. And that's also a function you see in InfoPath. So I'm going to click done. And so, yep, so that rule is added there. So that's one of the latest features that we've added. We also have, we also made some changes in the task pane field here. So you can see there's now an indicator that that field is a folder. So there's an icon there. And see if we can expand here for items. And I'm seeing that blue down arrow icon to indicate that that folder is a repeating group. So that's those are the main one of the changes that we've added in the Forms Designer. So because previously it's confusing, there are no icons shown here. It's just I think they're just plainly displaying as fields. So now you can clearly select or see if you're selecting a folder or an actual field. Okay, so another feature that we've added is the ability to add an XTP. So if you want to add an XTP to your form, you can select that here. But there's some limitation right now because I can't select these dynamic data connections XTP, I think. Oh, I can do that now. Maybe GB has already added that file there. So when adding XTP in the form, it's usually adding some of the stuff in the view, but there's an icon here now where you can click and it can display the documentation for your XTP. I think you can switch that by closing that out, yeah. So it's now separated in the view. We normally instruct people to add the XTP, and then when there's documentation left in the view, we add them to delete that. So now you have this little icon here to explain the instructions, and it's separate from your view. That's a cool feature there. And it's supposed to add so the data connections for the dynamic XTP here, are added in the form. And also we have the switch view. So I can switch a different view here, and it will switch to that view. I think that's all for the Forms Designer demo. Can you show the PowerPoint slide now so I can do the FormsViewer pitch?
I'm sure, 1 second. Yeah, we don't seem to have any questions, so go for it.
Yeah. So I'd like to take this chance to introduce FormsViewer. For those who are unfamiliar with FormsViewer, it is the only application that's dedicated to let you continue your InfoPath investment. And as you may have or haven't heard, Microsoft will discontinue support for InfoPath by 2026. And with that, the best solution that we offer is to migrate your form solutions to FormsViewer without rebuilding them from scratch. And you can migrate your forms to Office 365 or SharePoint on-premise with minimal effort. You will save on migration time and cost because FormsViewer licensing is based on per tenant usage, so it is less expensive than other solutions. And FormsViewer is also more than a replacement for InfoPath. This app can be integrated with modern technology. Just like what Kaoru and Mel showed in today's webinar, our support for CSS and JavaScript can quickly upgrade your forms. You can add different things like smartphone authentication, can provide external access for users without login accounts. You can make your forms responsive in the browser and display it in high resolution devices. So you can do many things with FormsViewer. And we are dedicated to continue innovating to help your forms work efficiently in the browser. So can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay, so to know more about the latest features, you can always visit our YouTube channel and watch our weekly webinars. And you can try the FormsViewer app. You can download it in the SharePoint store. And if you have any questions, please contact us at support@qdabra.com, and we'd be happy to assist you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, everybody, for participating in today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed, and we are hoping that you would be able to apply what you learned from today's webinar into your forms going forward. And we're always here to help you, assist you in whichever needs you may have in building your forms. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.